to the holding area. Okay, we'll get started here. We have Cassius Winston, Tum Tum Nairn, and Miles Bridges. So we will open the floor to questions for the student athletes. Again, please get the microphone and identify yourself when asking questions.
Specifically for Cash and Tom, I'd like you both to address this, please, as point guards. What sticks out to you defensively from Bucknell?
The guards have a lot of experience, and they're playing with a lot of confidence. So, you know, they're going to make and take tough shots. So we got to kind of, you know, keep funneling them into tough shots. Don't let them get their rhythm going and things like that early.
Yeah, I think their experience, you know, having a lot of seniors is what make them a really good team. And like Cash said, I think we stick to our game plan, you know, and just they have that experience, we'll be fine.
Casey Harrison, State News. Question for Tom. You know, with Bucknell being such a senior-laden team, how exactly do you go approaching that to such a, you know, a young core group of guys?
Well, just understanding that they've played together for a while, and you know, in the tournament experience helped. But you know, we're a pretty young team, but we have a lot of experience. You know, me being a fourth-year senior, Gav fifth-year senior, and Ben sixth-year senior. But also our freshmen are, you know, sophomores now, so they have a year of experience under their belt too.
Yeah, Bob Winowski from the Detroit News. For Miles, Miles, obviously you came back for another run at it. Why do you think you might be better equipped and ready to handle the run this time than you were at this time last year?
We have way more depth this year. We have a lot more bigs, and our guards have way more experience. We kind of been through the wars last year, so I feel like that prepared us for this year.
I'm Vedant Gupta. I'm applying to be Sports Illustrated for Kids, and I have a question for Miles. You've done a lot for McKenna. You've dedicated your season to her. She was actually a classmate of mine. What's it like knowing that this is for her and she's out there?
Man, that's a great question. She's inspired me a lot ever since the day I met her. And after her birthday, I dedicated this season to her. So I wouldn't think of any other way to send her out the right way. We win a national championship for her.
Miles, for you, attacking the rim, how important is that, especially if you guys are going to win 6 and get a national title? Do you have to be aggressive thinking attack the rim?
Yeah, I definitely have to be aggressive. It's going to open up the floor for my teammates and for myself if I do that. And it kind of put me in the mindset to take over the game sometimes if I get going to the basket.
Ryan Cole, Impact Sports. Cassius, you're playing in your home city once again this year. I mean, just what are you most excited for as far as getting to play in Detroit again?
I mean, like, the city has shown me a lot of love through my journey. So this is a chance for me to, get back. And I know a lot of my friends and family going to be there, firsthand just to see how much I've grown, see how far I've came this year.
Hey, guys. So I have a question also with Sports Illustrated for Kids application. What do you guys think it is that's going to help you to move through the tournament if you do it well? And what is it that's going to get you an exit if you don't do it well?
I think consistency is going to help us in staying focused. They all count the same now. It's win or go home. So I think the teams that can stay consistent for the longer periods of time, that help them advance through the tournament.
I feel like also overlooking teams. Like if it's a higher seed playing a lower seed, they tend to overlook teams. But everybody in this tournament is a great team, so we can't overlook anybody.
Yeah, I would say our effort and how hard we play. You know what I'm saying? If we play our hardest, eventually we're gonna meet a team that matches our talent level and things like that. So the harder playing team is gonna win those games.
Any more questions for the players? Hondo?
Tom, you have talked about Cash and your pride in his maturity and how he's changed as a player. How have you seen him mature from where he was a year ago today?
I think in every way you could change, as a point guard, especially in our league. Got better defensively, changed his body, shooting the ball extremely well. Leads the Big Ten in assists. I think every area of his game is improving, especially him being vocal, on and off the court.
Michael Epps with Focal Point. For Cassius and Tum Tum, you guys won a game last year in the Friday game, so you know how to get through the weekend. Does that help you feel any more comfortable as you're going for this first and second round?
Yeah, definitely. I still believe that, all of last year and everything we went through was, built for this point right here. This team's been through a lot of ups and downs together, a lot of wars, things that tested us. And I believe now we got the experience, we got the talent, and our minds are ready to, to make this run. So whatever happens, things aren't going to go perfectly every moment, but, we got what it takes to dig down and, just put wins together.
I second that.
Harold Meeks for Tell Us USA News Network. I'm sure you heard by now that President Obama has picked you guys to take it all. Does that put any pressure on you?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that puts a big bullseye on our back. But, hey, we just got to go out there and play and see what happens.
Anybody else?
We have one question back here, and that'll be the last one.
Evan Meyer with Mac Report Online. Gentlemen, it's been about a week since you last played in the Big Ten tournament in New York. How have you been able not only to rest up, but still keep your edge coming into tomorrow night's game against Bucknell?
I think this team, we're always going to be motivated. We're in our mindset where if it's not a national championship, then it's probably a bust for this team, just because of how many players, what we think we're capable of. So, every game we're going to be motivated to go out there and play our best just because we got that end goal in mind. So, it was a good week for us to get off our feet a little bit, and then we came in practice and we got better. So we didn't really let up. We didn't take our foot off the gas. We got better this week.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. You can go head out and get ready for practice. Coach Izzo will be down in a minute. the booth. Exactly. Coach, living the dream, just like you.
It's a nightmare.
All right, folks. Just a reminder, please, to ask for the mics before you ask questions and to identify yourself and the outlet you're from. We will turn to Coach Izzo for an opening statement before we open the floor to questions.
Well, we're really excited. I think we had a good week of practice. I think the week off, you never know how it goes, but it was as good as it could go for me and for us. And I thought coming to this venue, which I think is gorgeous, having spent a little time here in December and coming down early on for a little tour to see the inside and outside, I think it's one of the premier arenas in the country, and we're looking forward to playing in it.
Jason Ross, DetroitSportsMedia.com. Coach, what do you think Bucknell does well as a team? What challenges might they be able to present for your team?
I said I looked at, Middle Tennessee, not to bring that up, but I look at Bucknell, and I kind of shake my head that they're a 14 seed, and I mean that. You got 3 seniors that can all put the ball in the hole. Brown is a very good point guard. They all shoot threes. I think 7 or 8 of the 9 players, I think 7 of the 9 all shoot threes at a regular basis. They have experience. They have some depth. They have some speed. And as I said, when you play in games like this, if anything's called an upset anymore, and I don't know if it is, but the way upsets are made a lot of times is by the three-point shot. And they have a lot of players that can make three-point shots, and we're going to have to defend that.
Tom, for you, when you watch Bucknell, what stands out to you most from them that you just notice that you really think that's an area that you have to concentrate on?
Well, again, they've got inside, outside. They've got a guard, they've got a forward, and they've got a center. The center was MVP last year. The forward's MVP this year. The center is Defensive Player of the Year this year. The point guard is quick and can do a lot of things. So they've got a lot of pieces right there, Sometimes it's easy to sag off if you just got a good inside game. Sometimes it's easy to press up if you just got a good perimeter game. They really do have maybe the ultimate balance. And that center is the way he can shoot it right hand and left hand is effective and good, and we're going to have to do a good job on him. They also get to the free throw line a lot. I think Thompson gets there 7 times in their conference, 9 times, I think, throughout the year, and that's a lot of times getting to a free throw line.
I'm Vedant Gupta. I'm applying for Sports Illustrated for Kids, and I have a question. So you guys you score big on the court, but you also score big off the court, such as doing things like helping with the Flint water crisis, helping with people who have cancer. what's it like to know that you're representing those people?
Well, what a good question by the most well-dressed guy in the room, so my hat off to you. Don't grow up to be regular writers, then you won't be able to dress that good. But I would say that, you know, it's a privilege and an honor to be a head coach. It really is, and it comes with its goods and its bads, but the goods are you get to do things for other people. And, you know, I think it was Magic Johnson at our place who coined the phrase many years ago that, you know, good players play great, but great players make other people play great. And I think that's always been the theory I've had there. You know, our job is to be role models and to try to help out other people. And, you know, going up to Flint a couple times like we did was great. And, you know, trying to be involved with a lot of things with cancer, a lot of things that have our regular people outside of our basketball family deal with. Maybe I'm as proud of our players of that as I am their accomplishments on the court.
Coach, Amanda Smith, Global Basketball. With such a short amount of time to practice today, what would you say is the most important thing for you guys to fine-tune and work on before going into tomorrow?
We just want to get some shots up. You know, I think when you get into, there's always this myth that at pro arenas, you know, it's kind of harder to shoot in. I don't see why. The basket's the same height and you know, the diameter is the same and everything else. But I think that's what a lot of people try to do here. They'll, you know, like we practiced this morning somewhere else, and then we'll try to come in here, and 80% of what we'll do is just get shots up, get the guys comfortable with the arena, and that's really what we'll do now. As they kind of say, the hay is kind of in the barn. You know, we've kind of done everything here the last 3-4 days to get ready, and we'll fine-tune a couple of things, but I think the big thing is just feel comfortable where you're shooting.
Online coach, today with the technology, it's easy to get information on other teams. Since your tenure at Michigan State, is it easier now to just get video, get information quickly on a Bucknell, so you don't have to wait maybe a day or two to get some film or video?
Well, it is easier. You know, we've always had an incredibly successful, we have a very good video program in our place, and I mean to the point where we've taped 1,600 or 1,800 games a year. So we don't rely on anybody else but ourselves. So when that thing, we find out who we got, my managers are like a bunch of elves, and they had all the game tapes that we had immediately. And then you make some calls and you try to, you know, look at some teams. How did they play them? How did the Big Ten teams play them? How did North Carolina play them? And you look at all those things, I'm sure, the same way they looked at ours. And but getting film is easier now for them on us, or it's easier for teams that don't maybe spend as much money as we do on those kind of things. But all the technology, all the work you do, at the end of the day, you know, they say in football you still got to block and tackle, and here you still got to defend and rebound and put the ball in the basket, and that's kind of what it comes down to.
So, Coach Vipul Gupta, I don't know if you remember me from way back when.
I do.
Great. So I got a question. Middle Tennessee State, you remember it. Kansas is having a heck of a battle right now with Penn. Coming out right out of the gates, you know, if a team gets a little momentum, it becomes a struggle, as you know from that experience. So is there anything you're doing to prepare right at the beginning of the game to come out and hit them hard?
I'm preparing to come out and hit them hard. I don't know if we'll respond that way, but you're right. You know, it's the underdog mentality that, first of all, everybody in the arena is always pulling for the underdog, and that's one thing. And you know, trying to convince your players to play the team, not the name on their shirt. And sometimes they're looking at the opposite. You know, maybe they're sitting there at Penn saying, well, that's Kansas, so it can affect you one way or the other. But I just say that the parity in college basketball now is so incredible. And I look at this team that we're playing and I say, wow. I mean, you know, if they're a 14 seed, and I look at some of the other teams, and some of these teams don't get the credit. When you got juniors and seniors, as I said, in the case of Bucknell, 3 seniors that are 1,000-point scorers that have been through the wars, that have played West Virginia, they're tournament tested, all those things, there's an advantage to that. And we just got to make sure, and I think we've done a pretty good job. We had some players that played in that game. I don't think we'll take anybody for granted, but sometimes the difference between really ready to play and not is this small, but it can make a big difference.
Coach Ryan Cole, Impact Sports. You've played in Detroit in some of your runs in the past. I mean, how much an advantage can your guys get from the fact that you're playing so close to home?
Well, it'd probably be unfair to tell you that I think a lot. Unfair to the other teams. But then again, I've played in North Carolina against North Carolina. I played there against Duke, and it seemed like every year they were in Greensboro or some of those places. So, a couple times it's been in Detroit, and I really believe that when it was here in 2000 for the regionals, we were down both games to Syracuse and Iowa State and found a way to win. And there's no question that 18,000 or however many fans we had there. And it might not be the same now because there's more teams in the first round, but we had a lot of fans there, and it helped. And I think it does. Some people ask me the question, are there going to be more distractions because you're here with families and everything? It's flip a coin. I think we make a lot of things. At the end of the day, this team has won 8 out of 9 Big Ten games on the road. We understand how to win on the road too, and when people are booing you or things like that. So I think it's going to be a little advantage. How much, I don't know.
Michael Epps with Focal Point. You've been through so many of these tournaments. I just want to ask, you're trying to win 6 games. How much more difficult are these games in the tournament compared to in the regular season or the Big Ten tournament? Just, is there a different feel? Is it just a regular game, or how much more difficult is it to go out there?
No, it's not a regular game. I can promise you that. Anytime you're in a situation where you're one and done. And that's kind of, as I said, when we played Illinois at home, we kind of tried to tell our players we're kind of in one and done time now. If you win this game, the worst you can do is tie for the Big Ten. If you win the next game, you win it outright. So, one game makes a difference. Then you get to the Big Ten tournament, it's the same thing. And I think that pressure, everybody deals with differently. And there's no secret that we're still an awfully young team. Talent matters, but it doesn't always matter over experience. And if there's one thing that worries me a little bit, it would be that. We played in the tournament last year, but we weren't as competitive as you needed to be because we just had so many injuries than what we went through. But I think we're ready to play, so I'm excited about getting started.
Matt Charbonneau, Detroit News. I know we've talked a lot about Cassius and his development on the floor this year, but I want to ask you a little bit more off the court about him because, from our perspective, we've seen how he's kind of taken this step this year. When everything was going on around the program, he's a guy that kind of emerges this voice of the team. I was just curious, from your perspective, how have you seen him grow off the court? And
that's an exciting question, and it's going to be interesting because he's had a great week of practice, but he did kind of do that, and without us really saying anything, he handles himself, which doesn't surprise me. He's a very intelligent kid, as we all know, but sometimes last year a quieter kid, and I think that's the part of his game that he's improving on, and as he grows in that area, I think you're going to see the rest of his game blossom. And under some tough circumstances, he did an unbelievable job of handling it without any direction from us. And I think, as he does off the court, such a good job, if he continues to do that on the court and be more demanding and be the quarterback of this team, I think his progress is going to rise, and I think our team's going to get better. And he's really had a good week, so I'm kind of excited to see how Cash does in this tournament.
Vidant Gupta here again, applying for Sports Illustrated for Kids. There are a lot of kids out there who admire you, and there's a lot of people who admire you. Any specific advice to them?
Yeah, you got some good questions. Were you talking to my mother and my sister, or who were you talking to? You know what? Like everybody, I think all coaches and all people, they try their hardest to do the right thing. And I've kind of withstood the test of time because I've stayed at a place that I love greatly. And when you stay at a place a long time, you gather friends and you gather people and you get to do things in your community. I mean, I don't look at myself as a basketball coach at Michigan State. I look at myself as a member of the East Lansing community. And so, you know, when you go to church with people, when you go pump gas with people, when you take the garbage out and there's people there, you get to meet a lot of different people when you stay in the same place a long time. And I think for the most part, I try to treat people like I'd want them to treat me. And so if those people are saying that to you, God bless them.
Chris Solari, Detroit Free Press. You mentioned about last year in the tournament, and that was Josh had a big game in that first game. I guess with him, what do you want to see a little bit more? Does he need to be more aggressive going to the rim to set up the mid-range, or does he just need to hit more shots?
Well, you know, he was shooting it really well from the three, Chris, and I think he started looking. His mid-range game is as good as anybody's, but I think he was looking for that so much. He was forgetting that he was open at the three. So we really spent some time looking at film and saying, boy, you're open here. You know, are you seeing what you need to see? And, you know, there's no question that if I looked at this week, I mean, I think we had a great week. But I think in order, Nick Ward might have had the best week at Cassius and Josh. I mean, those three guys. And I think those three guys are guys that needed to. So we'll see tomorrow whether that what that does. But I think the time last week and this week to really look at film, you know, we went through that 7 games in 11 days, or 7 out of 11 on the road, and it seemed like we were just spending so much time on our opponent that the coaches didn't do a very good job of analyzing what are we doing right and wrong. And in saying that, we won some big games in tough places to play on the road. I just think we were off a little bit, and some of it was our shooting. And his shooting went down maybe as much as anybody's over that 6, 7 games. But he shot it well recently, and I think he sees the difference. So it's hard to say how teams will play you. If they play up on you, you got to take them to the basket. But if they're off on you and you got 3-point shots, I think he's got to just shoot them. And that's what we talked about this week.
Okay, we're going to take 2 more.
Greg Joyce from the New York Post. How have you seen your guys kind of block out the noise over the last few weeks? And do you think having that week off maybe helped in that regard?
Yeah, you know, I think we've had a great 2 weeks. I mean, I have no complaints about the 2 weeks. We get to spend some time together. It was a little freakish to have no games and spring break. Like I said, I know Michigan had it the week before. I think Purdue had it the week after, and I don't know what Ohio State had. But you know, you have a week off of no games, and then you have spring break. It's kind of strange, and yet I think we balanced it the best we could. We used some film, we used some individual workouts, we used some shooting, we used some practice, and then on Sunday we got right back on track. And I was actually, even though it was a day longer, I was happy we were playing Friday because I think the routine of school, practice, meetings at night is a good routine, and I think that routine has helped us this week, piggybacking off of what we covered last week in the film part of it.
Okay, and our last question's back here.
Coach Elton Alexander with the Plain Dealer. It's been a while. Kind of piggybacking a little bit, how close are you as a program to being back to normal, so to speak, after the turmoil around the season? And are you any closer to talking about everything, or are you still sticking to the game plan, so to speak?
I'm definitely sticking to the game plan now. But how close are we? You know, that is $1 million question that I'm not sure anybody will be able to answer. Only because anytime there's any adversity of a loss, some people take it one way, some people take it the other. But when it's, you know, when there is noise and, I mean, no matter what it's from, every player kind of acts differently and accepts it or doesn't accept it. And probably of all the things that I've had to coach this year, that's the hardest, is trying to figure out, is it because of this, is it because of this, or is it because of this? And so there were times I was maybe a little harder on him, but probably more often than not I wasn't. and I'm not sure that's good either. But that's the balancing act that you had to do. I mean, that was the situation we were presented, and I think as I look back on it, whenever it's all over, I'm going to appreciate how well our guys handled it, but I will also say how probably difficult it was for them. And so I'm just proud of the way they handled it. I'm proud of my team right now. I'm excited to start playing, and I'm looking forward to getting it going tomorrow night. So thank you.
Thanks, Coach. We'll let you get to practice.